Viewers of Westmarch Workshop, I am Archon the Wizard.
Archon the Wizard? He's 7 feet tall!
Yes, I've heard. Kills demons by the hundreds. And if you were here, he'd consume the demons with arcane torrent from his eyes, and chain lightning from his arse. I am Archon the Wizard, and I see a whole army of fellow Diablo players here in defiance of bad drop rates and unfortunate enchanting rolls. You have come to fight on seasons, and on seasons you will play. What would you do on the season server? Will you re-roll?
Re-roll? At level 1? No! We will stay on non-season servers and keep our gear.
Aye. Re-roll on seasons, and your gear may suck. Stay on non-seasons, and you'll keep your gear, at least for a while. And when the next Diablo expansion is released, many years from now, would you be willing to trade all the gear you've collected from this day to that for one chance, just one chance, to come back here and tell Diablo developers that they may take our PvP, but they'll never take our seasons?
I can't believe I managed to keep a straight face.
Good job, yeah. It just happened to be perfectly timed with the music, too.
Yeah, there we go. We were rehearsing this in the pre-show. I could not keep it together. It was too epic.
I couldn't quite keep my accent together, but I did my best. Scottish accents are hard.
Yeah, yeah. We're actually discussing that. We have like this interesting correlation with Scottish accents, or when I'm doing my Arnold impersonations, I have to fight to keep from going into Scottish.
Yes, and when I'm doing Scottish accents, I tend to slip into pseudo-Arnold, so
it's little connection there. Who knew that, you know, Austrian and Scottish accents were so close together?
Yeah, I guess they're pretty close to each other, relatively.
Mm-hmm. They're the same continent. Who cares?
Yeah, it's all
who cares?
Europeans. Those people. Anyway, yes, Nineball's video is a little fuzzy. You know, connection things. It tends to fix itself. But speaking of Nineball, how was your week in gaming?
My week in gaming. Let's see. I did try out the PTR a little bit. I was going and messing around with my monk on the PTR, but my gear isn't that good enough to do anything really past Torment 1, so I can't really speak to any of the changes and how it really affects monks, because a lot of this is focused more on, of course, the Torment 6, but I just wanted to kind of get a personal feeling of how it was. It felt better than when I had played her on live. That much is certain, at least at Torment 1, but that, again, isn't really saying too much. From there, you know, it's I played a lot of Destiny. I did that. It was the final week of the Destiny beta, so I tried to get in as much play as I could on that. It felt a lot better than the alpha did, but you're not here to listen about, you know, the games other than that. So the only other thing that I want to go through and say is, for all of our iTunes and Stitcher listeners, I'm very sorry, because I'd screwed up the audio when we were uploading episode 17. So last week, if you were downloaded, you'd notice that the episode is only 31 minutes long, and we lost the back half. You know, the last hour of the show in that one. I'm working to try and fix that. Some people are saying that it's fixed. When I go and check it on iTunes, it still only says 31 minutes. So I'm just going to upload episode 17 again as kind of like episode 17A later tonight to get that up there in case you missed it. So if you're listening to this on iTunes, you can go back and get the other episode and listen to that. And again, I'm very sorry. That's my bad. I goofed. I screwed it up.
Nineball is bad.
Yes, let's just count on that.
No, but of course you can always watch it on YouTube as well. My week in gaming, it didn't have much Diablo in it, but hear me out. I am very excited for seasons to come out, and I think a break is in order. I don't know about you guys, but if I play a lot of Diablo, then it starts to feel a little monotonous. But anytime I take a break and come back to it, it's like playing it for the first time all over again.
Mm-hmm.
And I want that kind of enthusiasm for the game as soon as seasons drop, because I want to play super hardcore for like at least the first week or two once seasons come out. So I think I'm going to take a little bit of time away from it and then, yeah, hit it really hard when 2.1 comes out. I might even try to find a computer I could like borrow, because I really want to stream, and my computer sucks. But I might try to find a computer that I could stream from, because I think I'm going to be playing a lot. Can't wait to race to 70.
I don't know. I don't know if you noticed, but one thing that whenever I've taken a break for Diablo for even just a couple of weeks, and I come back to playing the game, the first thing that I notice, and despite all the controversy about it, is the just the detail in the game itself, like the artwork and how everything looks together. If you haven't played it for a while and you come back and you just log in and you start running around town or killing enemies, I just have to take a second, stop and look. It's like, it just looks so well polished. It's such like lovingly handcrafted. All of like the little tiny details from the candles to the barrels and such. It's just like a really beautiful looking game if you stop and just look at the background. When you're going and cutting through rifts or grinding bounties, you lose a lot of it because you lose that focus. But if you're sitting down for the first time in a month and you just look at it, it's really a beautiful game.
No, it's true. Especially if you've been playing other action RPGs during that break. Like if you've been playing Path of Exile for a few weeks and then you go back to Diablo, it's like, oh my god. The thing for me is just how much fun it is to kill stuff in Diablo. Like the physics and the animations and the particle effects are like so much better in Diablo than other action RPGs. Every time an arcane orb or some other big blast hits an enemy and they just go flying, it's just so much more gratifying than like Path of Exile or, I mean, great games, lots of good action RPGs out there, but they just can't compare as far as like image quality, I guess.
Yeah, and that's the one thing people always love to hate on the most about Diablo is the art. People just controversy lives.
It's too bright and colorful, right?
Yeah. Someone in the chat just mentioned any Heroes of the Storm. I just want to say I did actually play a little bit of Heroes this past week. Not as much as I normally do because I really don't like the new changes. I don't know if you've tried it out.
All my friends play Heroes of the Storm, and I can't get into it as much as they are. But they were a fan of the changes of the artifacts. Is that what they're calling them?
Yeah, I like the artifacts. I hate the new leveling system.
Oh, okay. What's your problems with the leveling system?
Beforehand, it was if your account level was below, it was like 4 or 6, you had certain talents locked. And then once you hit that level on your account, regardless of the level of the hero, it unlocked all of them. Now, there's multiple tiers of talents, and you have to level up the individual character in order to get any of them. So if you go and start a new character, your heroic talents are locked. A lot of the better talents, individual level talents are locked, and they unlock in very strange ways. You'll get your heroic talents, but then you won't have the level 20 talent, the level 20 talent that buffs them. And then you'll level up again, and then you'll get the level 20 talent for one of them. And then you have to get to level 5 before you finally unlock the levels for all of them. So it's like, I want to try out a new character, but I have to go and play, 10, 15 games before I can even really get any gauge for the character at all.
Yeah.
Because you have all of your things locked, and it's that way for everything. So if I want to have options, I have to play a lot of characters a lot of times, so that way I can actually, open them up to be decent at playing.
It does seem like kind of a cheap way to add more quote-unquote content to the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess the old assumption was once you've played any character enough, you're experienced enough that you can handle having options on all the characters. And this new one kind of assumes that each character is going to take some time to play before you're able to handle all the different options.
Yeah, and I can kind of understand the mentality of Blizzard, where if you start off without being able to use the talent, that would be the expectation, and it feels like you're getting rewarded because it's giving you the talents, as you level up. and that just the people that have been in the alpha, you always had access to everything, and so that way it only feels like a nerf in that respect. But when you look at the other huge ones like League of Legends, Dota 2, Han, such, they don't work like that. You start off with the ability to use all of the talents, or at least all of the skills for your characters, and you get little minor passive buffs as you level. With the summoner abilities and the rune pages and such. But that should be the expectation, is that you have free access to your character and you can do whatever you want with the talents that are built in, and that's what you should have at the beginning. I think it's overall, like, the community has been very negative on these changes, and it's something I hope they revert.
Yeah, I hope so. Maybe as a transition here, we got Comic-Con this last week, and I don't know if you've been following the announcements, but I would love to ask, is there any announcement in particular, maybe not necessarily Diablo related or even Blizzard related, anything that's come out of Comic-Con that you're super excited about?
I
can say Mad Max movie. I don't know if you've seen the trailer yet, but they're making a new...
Yeah, that trailer, that got me stoked. I was kind of like, whatever. They're bringing back the franchise. It's been 20 years. They're not going to be able to do it justice. And then I watched the trailer probably 5 times in a row because it's the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, worth checking out if you guys haven't seen it yet. It's really cool.
One other thing, the leaked test footage for Deadpool, not really Comic-Con related. I don't know if you've seen that.
No.
Yeah, they did like a little 3-4 minute test footage. It's all CG. Ryan Reynolds is doing the voice of Deadpool, and it is amazing. Someone had just leaked the video, and it had such a great response that the director, released a high definition version of it, so that way everyone could watch it. And it's gotten a lot of great, a lot of positive feelings behind it. It's just like they nailed the character. It's beautiful.
Wow, I have to check that out. Sounds cool. Well, as far as Comic-Con goes, we did get some new stuff you can spend money on, brought to you by Blizzard.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them are pretty exciting. So I have a few images I can show you guys. First one is this is a Hearthstone, or a Hearthstone, depending on how you pronounce it. But it's just a little plush pillow thing, and it lights up.
Yeah. Throw
your money at the screen now.
Yep. You can go through. It'll keep you warm and snuggly at night.
Yeah.
Because it has always been the little protective blanket for paladins the world over.
Yeah. Just be careful where you bring it, because if you're at a party and you push it, you're gonna get sent back home, and that's gonna be annoying when you have to drive all the way back to the party.
Mm-hmm.
We got some figurines, which it took me forever to figure out how big these things are. This is the Kerrigan figurine, and when I first saw this, it looks like CGI. When you look closely, you can be like, okay, that's actually like an actual figure. I'm like, is this thing like 12 feet tall? I really couldn't tell how big it was. Looked it up. They're about a foot tall.
Yeah, and that is actually a recreation of a sculpture, like a bronze sculpture that they did, that Sideshow Collectibles had done as a holiday gift, I believe 3 years ago, for everyone at Blizzard.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they're actually going through it's a slightly different pose, and I believe this one is like their polystone instead of the bronze sculpture, but it's still really nice to see that out and being released, because it was an epic thing. You can find them on eBay every once in a while for like $800.
Yeah. Well, they're not that much cheaper from Comic-Con. There's also here's a Diablo figurine. This is the Shadow version of Diablo, but they're about $500 to buy one of these figurines. You got some extra money. You're a diehard Blizzard fan.
Yeah, for the Kerrigan one, not the Diablo, right?
How much was it? I thought they were both 500, but I.
Yeah, because I think the Diablo one that you have up on the screen right now is like 25, 30.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a huge difference. Why is the Kerrigan one so much more expensive?
Because the Kerrigan one is an actual statue. It's like a 12-foot statue. This one is just a little plastic action figure.
Oh, I'm so sorry, guys. I'm bringing you misinformation. Well, there's some figurines. Do your
Yeah.
own research, I guess. Is the
Yeah, the Kerrigan one is going to be from Sideshow Collectibles, and that one they're normally priced somewhere between like $300 and $400. They've got some other ones. They've got like an Arthas, and the Sideshow Collectibles does also have a Diablo one that's like about almost like 2 feet tall. It's like almost 20 inches, I believe, or 23 or something along those lines, and it's $370, I think.
Oh, okay. I'm on those stuff. Well, the goodie that I was most excited about, they're making a Heroes of the Storm version of the card game Bang, which is like one of my all-time favorite board games, if you can call it that, or card games at the very least. And I can't wait. If you guys haven't played Bang, it's like an old Western game, originally made in Italy, I think. And you all have roles, but no one knows who anyone is. And yeah, you're gonna be able to play that awesome game as Blizzard characters. So you can finally bang your friends as your favorite Blizzard character.
Yay!
Yay! You've always wanted to do.
That will be taken so many places.
You just take it. But that was only $25, so you don't have to spend $500 here. Just
You know, I bought the StarCraft version of Risk, and it's still sitting there because I've never found anyone to play it because all of my friends don't like to play Risk, and I am sad.
Ah, you need new friends.
I know, I do. But I'm hoping that with this Bang game, my friends are much more into this type of card game and such. So hopefully, I'll be able to convince people to play that.
Nice. Yeah, I didn't know there was a StarCraft Risk. Now I have a present idea for some of my friends.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do you wanna? Should we go right into the other thing I had pictures prepared for with the I can't remember what they called them.
Let's do it. It is the they are the service awards.
Service awards. Yeah.
Yep.
So anyone who doesn't know, if you work at Blizzard, you get cool stuff every few years.
Very cool stuff.
Very cool stuff.
Super cool stuff.
Yeah,
like amazingly cool stuff.
Well, let's not oversell it here. If you work there for a really long time, you'll get amazingly cool stuff. But, for example, if you work there for 2 years, you'll get one of these very fancy steins to support your alcoholism. Because you're a gamer, you probably drink a lot.
Yeah, probably. Probably.
But we don't really have use for steins anymore. I mean, this used to be like when you would walk down to the bar and fill it up, and that was like your beer for the night. But now, anyways, you get a stein. You'll make use of it, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. If you're going to buy a stein, it's either you're getting it purely for collectors and it's going to sit there and look lovingly, on your shelf, or you're going to get use out of it, and well, you'll get use out of it.
Yeah. In other words, it's only useful if you're an alcoholic, I think is what we're trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, I didn't get a good picture of the full sword, but if you work there 5 years, you get a sword. Now, it's not the same sword.
No.
Every year, there's a new sword. So based on which year it is when you hit your 5-year, you'll get a sword. I can't tell if this is an actual sword from lore. Do they all come from the games?
Some of them have been. Most of them they're either modeled after some lore inside the game, or they're taken from, modeled after some pop culture reference. Like this will kind of be modeled after like the Highlander sword, and so on and so forth. But some of the things that I've heard is that in previous years you actually have a choice between like a few different designs. And so every year the sword designs themselves change, but it's not like everyone gets the same exact sword that year. There's a few different types of variations.
That's cool. Well, if you work there for 10 years, you'll get a shield. And it looks like they'll even give you like this little plaque where you can hold your sword and shield together.
Yep.
And when I was at Blizzard, they had most people would have their swords and shields just hanging in their area, their cubicle area, their desk area. It's pretty cool.
In the shield, the only one that I've ever seen is the Shield of Lordaeron, which is of course from World of Warcraft. And so I think that's the only design that I've ever seen for any of the shields.
There you go. 15 years, I'm just learning. All I knew about was the sword and shield before these pictures came out. But if you were there for 15 years, you get one of these really cool rings. And it looks like, at least in this image, that there's like male and female rings. I think we can do away with that now. Look at the female ring is so small. Like if I was a girl, I'd still want the man ring.
Even if it didn't fit on your finger?
No, I just have it resized. Add some extra silver in there, something. I don't know.
Maybe.
I think we can. Like, do we really need separate jewelry for men and women? I don't know.
I mean, there's still certain aesthetics that people go for between a men's ring and a woman's ring. So I mean, it's not like specifically designed, for you're a woman, you get this. There's certain things that people go for, with how they want their rings.
Yeah. Well, they both look really cool. I'm guessing this is like the shield. There's just the one, right? We're not getting new rings each year?
Yeah, there are very few times that I've ever seen the ring itself, and you can tell from the pictures they also have the symbol of Lordaeron on there.
There you go. And then, drum roll, if you work there for 20 years, which isn't that uncommon from what I've heard, you get this amazing helm that Nineball knows a lot more about than I do.
Yeah, the helm itself is only introduced. They just celebrated the 20th anniversary just a few years ago, so there's not many people there that have that helm, and it is actually kind of a blending of the three franchises. It has little tiny bits with like the jewel and some of the, I believe it's the filigree work is kind of inspired by Protoss, and then obviously the horns and the coloration is Arthas, the Lich King's Helm of Domination, and then the actual face mask itself is modeled after Imperius, and so the entire helm encompasses all three of the franchises.
So cool. Once Titan comes out, then we're gonna need a new helm, I guess.
Yeah, and for Hearthstone, they're actually adding in like a card. There's going to be a platinum card is just going to be welded onto the front of it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if you can actually wear that helm.
I don't know. I've not seen it in its size relation compared to a person, to see if it is wearable or not, or if it's just a decoration piece.
I think after 20 years, you should just have to come to work wearing the helm every day. They just size it to you. If you've been working there 20 years, you walk around with the helm.
If I was given a helm like that for working at a company, I would wear it to work every day, just because.
Even outside of work, you go to a party, go out for lunch. Why not?
Mm-hmm. I earned it. God damn it! I'm wearing this.
I'm gonna wear this helm. Mm-hmm. I think it makes sense to me. Well, yeah, that's all we have for story time with Archon and Nineball. Those were the images we had, but we had a few interesting blue posts this week.
Ever so slightly, just a few.
Just a few. It must have been Comic-Con, right? They were all busy. Yeah. Not a lot got done, or at least not a lot on the forums. But I'll be selfish and take this first one because I'm super excited about the Meteor changes.
Go for it. Take it.
All right. So Wizards have been hurting. We've felt a little weak. I mean, I don't want to compare ourselves to monks here because let's face it, monks have had the real persecution. But if you're a wizard, you probably felt a little weak in Reaper of Souls, and you probably have not been using Meteor because it hasn't been that great. But we're getting some really cool changes. So as you might have already seen, the base damage of Meteor is going up a little bit, but also some of the Meteor runes are going to be a lot cooler. For example, Comet, which is the cold rune on Meteor, will now automatically freeze any enemies that are chilled for 1 second. Not a long time, but you should have a chance to freeze all enemies. Now, if they're already chilled, you freeze them. And this works really well with the current standing of the game where you pretty much have to pick an element and stick with it. Like if you're using Comet, you're a cold wizard most likely. The enemies are going to be chilled most of the time, and this is really just giving you a little bit more of an advantage for specking cold, since they're going to be chilled already. Automatic freeze, which really I feel like they're getting dangerously close to a new Stunlock wizard with a lot of these changes. With both the Blizzard and the Comet change, that's a lot of freezing. You get Frost Nova on there. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a Stunlock build coming out pretty soon. Star Pact, the arcane rune that used to make it just cost less, will now work similar to how Ancient Spear with Boulder Toss used to work, in that it'll spend all of your remaining resource. So it'll do the same damage it was doing before. Well, sorry, slightly increased damage. But then for every additional point of arcane power you have above the cost of Star Pact, it'll add 20% weapon damage. And that also seems like a really cool build. You mix that with arcane power reduction as well as resource regen. Seems like Star Pact could be really powerful. I can't remember how much it costs off the top of my head now, and I want to say 35 arcane. No, 20.
Was the Meteor 40?
Meteor's 35 and Star Pact's 20. I want to say. Anyways, yeah, I haven't done the math yet, but that's a lot of damage you get if you had a full orb of arcane power. And then I think probably the most exciting one is Lightning Bind. The Lightning rune on Meteor is just going to remove the delay now. Instant Meteor. And what I want to know is how are they going to balance this with the Lightning rune on Arcane Orb? Because the thing keeping Arcane Orb usable over Lightning Bind in the past has been the delay. But if they're buffing the damage on Meteor and removing the delay, I don't know why anyone would use Arcane Orb with the Lightning rune. You're going to get more damage, and you have as big of an AoE with more range. Like, it just has everything over Arcane Orb, so...
I guess wouldn't it just be that you have for the Arcane Orb is it gives you that buff to the next spell that you cast? I don't know if it would be enough to actually make a difference.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I've always had a problem with that buff because it really incentivizes you to have a second damage dealing spell, but it just doesn't seem worth it. Like, once you have Arcane Orb on there, then also adding Meteor or Wave of Force or some other spell, you're taking up an extra slot. I mean, it's a nice buff if all your damage is already lightning, but yeah, I can't see it being enough to match Lightning Bind.
Yeah. Now maybe if they made the change to where you had it for the Spark, which is the Arcane Orb rune, that it did not affect Arcane Orb. And so you could continue to cast it and build up that stack up to whatever maximum stacks. It will give you kind of like that build up. So you can go through, get up the stacks as you just sit there and chain cast Arcane Orbs. You get it to your max stacks, maybe 20, 30, 50, whatever you want to do, and then drop Meteor. And it would be instant, so that way it hits what you target. You don't have to worry about it moving out and that half-second delay. And it consumes all the stacks and does that huge amount of damage. So it would work well with that.
Yeah, I love that idea. I think that in combination with maybe like a slight decrease in arcane power cost on Spark, yeah, that'd make for an awesome build right there. Especially if you're using the Grand Vizier, which is getting a rework. Grand Vizier is a two-handed weapon that has sucked. It's been okay on followers because it's generally given... Well, in the past they gave Gold Find and Magic Find. But the change they're doing to it is it's going to reduce the cost of Meteor by 45 to 60%. Huge cost reduction. This sounds like too much to me. I feel like Meteor Wizard's going to be like a new build here. But we definitely need these. Two-handed weapons, although they're getting a damage increase, still don't have quite as good of procs as the one-handers. And yeah... That could work really well, especially if they had incorporated some kind of change like that to Spark. That could be a really cool build.
Just kind of building in combos into the game to have it work out. Whether it's actually effective or not, to just as opposed to just chain casting Meteor. Yeah, I have no idea, but it's an idea, something that they can throw out there.
Yeah, Clues from chat is saying that he thinks it's kind of a boring legendary power, and I'll admit it is kind of. I would call it a lazy affix. It's not very original. It's not super creative, but it still stands to be one of the better legendary affixes. I mean,
and it's also, even though the affix itself is boring, the change that it makes to your play style is interesting because now you're chain casting Meteor because it's free.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Cinder Coat, I think, is a great example of that. It's 30% or up to 30% resource cost reduction on fire spells. Not very exciting, but it's responsible for most of the current Demon Hunter builds.
Mm-hmm. Well, besides Marauders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It still works. I mean, 'cause most people using Marauders are still squeezing in Cindercoat, right? Or are they giving up another slot?
Most of the time they squeeze in Mage Fists.
Oh.
Yeah, because you yourself don't really cast that much, so you don't need the resource cost reduction. You get the same elemental damage out of Mage Fists, but you're not giving up with a glove. You're normally going for pure offensive stats anyways. On Cindercoat, you're giving up survivability stats for that elemental damage, and so people will tend to just use the Marauder's chest, so that way they can keep having all resist in addition to vitality, main stat, and sockets.
Makes sense. Probably even more so on hardcore, I imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. Well, you want to grab the next blue post?
Sure. The next one we'll go through, and yes, as people are going through and mentioning, Tasker and Theo is also another popular one, as is the Hexing Pants for the Marauders builds. But we've got a whole bunch of monk changes. We've had a whole ton of monk changes within the past few weeks. They've really been kind of focusing in and trying to address some of the issues for monks. First, they buffed their damage. Then they buffed their spirit generation. Still not enough, so they've got more planned. They're not just letting it lie. And just to give an idea of some of the changes that they want to do, Nevelistus hit the forums yesterday, and they're gutting a few of the last built-in dodge mechanics that were still there. So Mantra of Evasion is being turned into Mantra of Salvation, and it will now give you a 20% bonus to all resist as the base effect of the rune. And then they're making it so that way just one of the runes for this new mantra gives you the 15% dodge if you still wanted to use that. But it's having the bonus to all resist as opposed to having the bonus to dodge is obviously much better. It's equally beneficial to everyone. People won't just be like, "What the hell is dodge? What do I do with this?" I can't dodge poison on the ground. It sucks.
And 15% dodge is a lot better when you already have 30% dodge than when you have no dodge.
Yeah, well, it would scale. It would be always be like a 15% increase over what you had previously. So if you had 50% dodge, it would only be like 7.5.
Yeah, don't listen to me.
Yeah, Unfortunately, you couldn't get up to like 70% dodge. Throw it on. I'm at 85% dodge. I don't take damage.
Makes sense.
They tricksy rabbitses. They got through that. Some of the other ones that they did is, I'm of course going through some of the boring changes before I get to some of the good stuff, is they also are going to do a little quality of life changes and DPS boost to some of the spirit spenders, particularly Lashing Tail Kick and Wave of Light, which again is something that we've talked about in previous podcasts, that as the generators increase in damage, it's nice, but if they don't also increase these just hellaciously expensive spenders that they have, like Wave of Light, that it won't, there's no reason to use it. You can just spend that time continuing to use your generator for the same amount of damage over the same period of time as you would use Wave of Light.
Similar to problem that the Wizards had, I guess, once they introduced the Depth Diggers.
Yeah, and they also, the seasonal item that they had included, the Alabaster Gloves, they're getting rid of it. And so now they're replacing it with a legendary fist weapon that makes it so that way increases your maximum stack count for Sweeping Wind by 5 to 7. So you can now get 8 to 10 stacks of Sweeping Wind. So depending upon the rune that you're using, you could easily be walking around with 600 damage to all enemies within a few yards of you every single second, more or less for free, just having to keep it up, which is it's a rather sizable amount of damage if you're going to be wailing on something for even just a few seconds. That is interesting.
It sounds really cool. I worry that it's really solidifying Sweeping Wind's place as a mandatory skill, though.
It could. It's on a weapon, so you are going to have to choose which affixes you want to use. But luckily, it's nice in the fact that it is a weapon, so it doesn't really change the rest of your gear loadout if you don't want to. But already sweeping winds was already a very popular skill back in vanilla. It's fallen off, ever so slightly, but it could see its return to dominance and always having a place in your skill bar with this new weapon, depending upon how it actually works out. Which is another slight benefit to the going back to the mantra change, is the squishiness of the monks being addressed and giving them that as just a way of doing passive damage while they're in the midst of things is nice. If their survivability is at a point where they can stay in combat, so we'll see. That has a lot riding on it to see how well it's balanced. Besides just the damage, it also heavily factors into if you can actually stay engaged or not. And then probably the biggest change is that they are going to be adding the attack scaling or attack speed scaling back to the monk generators. Back in Classic, you had skills like Fist of Thunder, which had a massive increase. It had like a 30 or 40% attack speed multiplier built into the skill. So if you only had 1 attacks per second, you'd effectively be attacking at like 1.3. And if you had 2 attacks per second, you'd be attacking at like 2.6. It was a huge benefit that you had of using certain generators, because they increased your attack not exponentially, but they multiplied your attack speed. And they're going to be tweaking those numbers for they said most, they didn't say all. I imagine Crippling Wave probably won't get touched just because it's an AoE skill and they want it slow on purpose. Fist of Thunder is probably one that they'll definitely buff, as is Deadly Reach. Deadly Reach has only been popular lately because Fist of Thunder was nerfed so much they got rid of its attack speed scaling. So a lot of people started using the Deadly Reach for that, as well as just the side benefits and the buffs from the different runes of Deadly Reach. And I'd also like to see them give like some sort of attack speed to Way of 100 Fists, because that's supposed to be an insanely like fast skill. The skill itself, like your second attack, you do like 16 or 8 attacks in the span of half a second, but it's still really slow compared to some of the other generators. Even when compared, it's almost slightly faster than Crippling Wave, but still slower than like Deadly Reach and such, because you have a lot of lag in between the activations of the different hits. So I'd like to see that being boosted.
Nice. Yeah, it seems like I feel like hold here. This is a good amount of changes for the monk, and yeah, I'd be surprised if this didn't set the monks back. What do you think? You think this is enough?
I guess just going back to the sweeping wind thing, it will be enough, depending on survivability. That's one of the big things for them in Tier 6. In addition to just the damage output, is they're a lot frailer than barbarians or crusaders. So they feel like they can't stay in combat to generate their spirit or to generate the damage output that they need to. Hopefully, this new mantra change will get them there, depending upon what runes it has available to it. We'll have to see. We'll definitely have to see.
Yeah, sounds exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know one change that no one is too excited about. Forms, trading forms, closed down.
Oh yes, yeah.
I don't think they were being used, but they're not there anymore.
Nope, there wasn't really much use for them, anyways.
Hey, I have a rare item that's mediocre. Anyone else want to trade for a mediocre rare item?
Yeah. It's just, I'm sure that there was some trading, I imagine, for classic items that were still tradable, but that was about it. And there was a whole bunch. The only thing that I ever really saw the trading forums get used for legitimately are people that were buying flawless square gems in bulk, because the achievements in the game, Radiant Star achievements, were still there, and they were next to impossible to get once Reaper came out if you purchased the expansion, because the max level gem for them was still the Radiant Star, which, as soon as you hit level 61, you had Maquis drops, and you couldn't complete it. It was next to impossible. So people were going through and actively buying flawless squares to try and get those last few achievements done. Which, segueing, they're also going to be removing those achievements. They're going to become feat of strengths.
Oh no. Well, sorry to break your segue, but I feel like the significance of the trading forums closing is that a lot of players were kind of hoping that Blizzard would change their mind on this whole no trading thing, and this kind of like just I think reassured us that Blizzard is sure. Like, no, we're really getting rid of trading.
Yep, this is not coming back. It's not coming back as much as we want it to, or as much as I guess a few of us want it to. It's not coming back.
Oh. Well, sorry. Let me take a quick bio break while you talk about achievements and feats of strength, since I'm not up on that at all.
Okay. So yeah, basically, like I said, the achievements that were in there for having at least the one radiant star and then having the full set of all the colors of radiant stars are being transferred over to feats of strength. So they're being removed from the achievement window, but they haven't said anything as if they're adding anything for replacement. So we don't know if they're going to add in an achievement for getting the flawless. What is it? The flawless royal gems, or the full set of flawless royal gems. So we'll see what they have intended for that. Not particularly like newsworthy, but they are still working some of the bugs. There's a couple bugs with the conquest achievements on the PTR, particularly sprinter and the speed racer conquests, which you have to complete acts 1 through 5 at max level within an hour. So you have to beat the entire game in 1 hour. And even though it's like registering on the leaderboards, it's not giving you credit for the achievement. It's just something they're going to go and work on and get that built up. They also went and said that the leaderboard itself will not take into account your time. So it's just the fact that you had completed it, and so you don't have like a leaderboard for, well, this person got it in 47 minutes, this person got it in 45.
Nice.
Yeah.
I've totally been listening the whole time.
Entirely.
Totally.
Yep. That luckily you saved me, because that is it on achievements.
That's awesome. I knew that. I could sense it. I was like, I better stop peeing now and just come back and save 9 ball.
Mm-hmm.
Well, also in Blue Posts, we got some information regarding greater rifts. So we're getting some little minor tweaks here. This first change they announced was that Urshi, the new crafter that will upgrade your legendary gems, will now no longer only spawn when you fail a greater rift. So the old philosophy was that Urshi would only come once you had reached the end of your greater rift progression. And so she'd only spawn when you failed, and now she'll spawn every time. But if you choose to use Urshi, you're done. You're done with that greater rift progression. So I'm curious as to why this was such a request from players to be able to end their greater rift progression early instead of continuing all the way through.
Well, maybe someone just. Maybe if someone is sitting on a stack of keys and they just want to try leveling up their gym, and that's it. They just want to go through, and I just want to spend a little bit of time, go in, do it, and then upgrade my gym and call it quits.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I guess I'll have to go through and do some testing on my own. Bad on me for not playing this week, but do you think that it would be faster to upgrade your gym if you didn't wait until you were done?
I don't know. That is one that I haven't done any greater rifts since these changes, because I haven't been on the PTR that much. But it now will show you like your chance at upgrading. So I guess that would be one of those ones that have to go through and pull up what the success rates are from the rifts, and find what is most efficient. How is your time better spent?
Yeah, makes sense. The next change, the Greater Rift Guardian will spawn at 15-minute mark, which is, of course, the time limit for the Greater Rifts, regardless of whether or not your bar has reached full progress. So this should eliminate the slog, as they quote, at higher Greater Rifts where you fail but have the rest of the level to go before you get your rewards.
Because that is like just like the ultimate, kind of like buzzkill. You're at level 78. You're going through and you're just struggling. You're struggling. You got the most horrific, RNG rolls on packs and monsters and such, and it was just horrible. You got like 30% of the way through, and then your rift run was over. And it's like if you want to get anything out of it at all, I have to just keep slogging through this in order to actually get the Guardian to spawn. Now at least they have a little bit of compassion, and they just give you the Rift Guardian. Once it's done, once the timer runs out,
Just
you don't
throw
have
you
to worry
a bone.
about. Yeah, they throw you that little bit.
Yeah, makes sense. Small changes here, but quality of life stuff, I suppose. The pacing for upgrading your legendary gems has been significantly revised. So TLDR, it looks like your legendary gems will upgrade more often, but they'll be smaller upgrades, right?
They doubled the rate at which you gain levels, and then have the power per level.
So I think Nineball had mentioned in an email earlier, it's mostly just a psychological change.
Yep,
right.
It's the entire reason behind it. You get the upgrades more often on your gyms, so you feel as if you're progressing faster instead of not getting a level on the gym beforehand when you go and you do a couple upgrades. So now it's just more of the kind of the warm fuzzy feeling. After the same period of time, you wind up with the same level gym. You gained 100 levels instead of 50.
Yeah, seems like it's the kind of thing that devs probably think about all the time. Like, how do we make the same exact thing feel a little bit better for players? Yeah, it doesn't really make a change in the game, but yeah, players probably happy about it.
Yeah, I'm sure. Someone going through, and it'll be less frustrating, and it feels more rewarding, even though you have the same increase in power with the amount of time that you put into it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think those are the big blue posts. We got a few other small ones. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess one of the only other things that I would consider kind of big is they went through in this past week and they mentioned that seasons might not start with the launch of 2.1. There may very well be a delay between when the patch hits and seasons start.
Yeah, and we got very little information on that.
Yeah, and this is the first time that they've ever mentioned it. I guess it was just kind of like the expectation is that since this is the season patch, it will start with the patch. But it looks like that might not be the case.
Yeah, still left it open-ended. It might start with 2.1, but it seems like typically when they say this stuff, it's we're not ready to start seasons or whatever the feature is. And so, yeah, I would, if I was going to put my money somewhere, it would be that seasons aren't going to be out when 2.1 launches.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on why they might be doing that?
No, that's really rough. I mean, obviously they already have the season functionality. You can play seasons on PTR. Because that would be my first guess, is that they're not ready to release them, but the rest of 2.1 is ready. My only guess would be that they're worried that some of the functionality on seasons won't work by the time they're ready to launch 2.1, and they want to get some of the bugs out of 2.1. Like, they'd rather just let players test stuff for a few weeks, fix the bugs before they start seasons, because that's when things get real.
Yeah, that is definitely one of the ideas I had in my head. That last part there is, they want to, no matter how much testing goes on in the PTR, when there's always things that they miss once it goes live, and they want to take care of that to give the seasons themselves a more legitimate experience, so that way they can hopefully try and squash bugs or close loopholes or exploits. But the other part of it that I was thinking, again, just kind of goes back to psychology, and that patch 2.1 comes out, and you've got all these wonderful new toys, all these wonderful, new items and functionality and such. But hold on, you don't get to experience any of that because you have to go and play a level 1 character first, and then get yourself up to 70, and then go through and grind your gear. So you're at least a few days away before you get to experience greater rifts or any of that great stuff, because you're going to be playing seasons first off.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if they push the seasons back, even by just a week, 2 weeks, or a month, people can go in with their max level characters that are already geared out, and they can experience everything in it. They can get their feet wet. They can have an idea of what it's like getting into them. So when they start seasons, they're better prepared. They've kind of said goodbye to their character, and they've gotten to play with all of the new toys, and they have something to look forward to on the season.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good thought. I mean, personally, I'm not going to be excited about 2.1 until seasons come out. Because once seasons are out, the non-season server just feels like fake Diablo to me. Like season where what you do matters. We have some guesses from chat as well. Mikey from chat was saying that maybe they are reconsidering the season exclusives. Maybe they want to play around with those and make sure they're, I don't know, good enough that we're excited about it, but not so good that they're overpowered. Meddling Mage is saying maybe it's better to just stagger the release. You know, our excitement might stretch out if they give us some and then the rest of it. Yeah, that's some JM Gina saying he prefers that they let us work out all the bugs before they release seasons.
Yeah, and although I too am, I'm looking forward to seasons and the fresh start and the renewed, sense of progression and such. But I'm not too worried if they delay it, as long as they keep it reasonable, like just a couple weeks.
Yeah, I think any more than that, players are going to start getting antsy.
Yeah, because then the other side of like the psychological aspect. Oh, you're just trying to stretch out content.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, content is definitely, I think, what Diablo needs most right now. It's got a great foundation, and hopefully seasons are the start of a new era of Diablo where we have as many ways as possible to play the game.
Yeah. Sorry for cutting you off there. Which topic were you originally going to be going into?
Oh yeah, we had a string of smaller posts. The first one I was going to talk about was that we had recently announced that two-handed weapons are getting a buff, and they originally said it was only going to be level 70, and now they're saying they're going to scale that all the way back to level 10. Not a huge change for most players, but something worth noting. Level 10 through 70 items should all receive the two-handed weapon buff. We had a little bit of information about the Ultimate Evil Edition of Diablo, which of course is the expansion for the console, give or take a few features.
Here and there.
Yeah, do you want to talk about that? You seem to have your mind around it a little bit better than I did.
Oh, sure thing. I'll take that one on. So obviously we're coming up pretty soon because the Ultimate Evil Edition is launching on August 19th. So we're only a few weeks away before that comes out, and they're just giving us some more of the details on the game itself. Particularly, we got a really big post from Lylera earlier today, going into what the steps are for transferring your character, from your previous save file of the console into the expansion. And they acknowledge the fact that just because you had a PlayStation or an Xbox in the previous generation doesn't necessarily mean that you stayed within that brand when you made the jump into the next generation. So they're allowing a cross-gen transfer. So if you had Diablo for the Xbox previously but now own a PS4, you can still transfer your character. Same thing if you had a PS3 and now have an Xbox One. You can still transfer your character, as well as, of course, PS3 to PS4, Xbox 360 to Xbox One. You cannot switch a 360 character to the PS3 or vice versa, as well as I assume that also means that you cannot change from Xbox One to PS4 and vice versa. So they're just allowing you that one-time upgrade when you're copying over your character, so you don't have to worry about losing all of your progress just because you decided to go to a different console in the new gen platforms.
It's really interesting. I wonder how that works internally, because obviously there has to be some kind of cooperation between Sony and Microsoft to allow PS3 to Xbox One or Xbox 360 to PS4. But for some reason, they're not willing to do the cross-platform if it's on the same gen.
Yeah, I wonder how they'll actually do it. Because that's the one thing that they did not say is how they will handle it. Because it's not like you can just pop out a memory card from the 360 and plug it into a PS4 in order to transfer over your character.
Yeah.
As they haven't revealed all of the details of exactly how the transfer itself will happen. But once it goes out, and apparently they'll be patching the original games, and in it will give you a prompt and show you the steps that you have to go through in order to transfer your character either to the new generation console or the new generation on the other brand of console. So we'll have to see.
Yeah. They're doing just enough to make sure you don't stop playing because of the expansion.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Let's make sure you don't lose your character. But hell, if you already have an Xbox One, we don't need to make concessions for you. You're able to play the game. GLHF.
Yep. And then they also have today also started the digital pre-orders for the Ultimate Evil Edition for the PS3 and PS4 versions of the game. And the PlayStation 3 is only $40. They're acknowledging that for the PS3 it's an expansion. So you probably already own the previous game, and so it's only going to be the $40 instead of being the full price. But if you've never owned the original copy of Diablo 3 for the console, it still has the base game. You don't have to buy both. You get everything included when you buy that copy, so you're fine. You're taken care of. And then for the PS4, as well as going to be for the Xbox One, is the full $60. They're giving it the price of a new game, though it does include both. It's still the original Diablo 3 with Reaper of Souls built into it. And they just went on to talk about some of the pre-order benefits as well as some of the exclusives for buying it on the PlayStation version.
No. Any worth talking about? I didn't even see that.
Some of them, they have the previous bonus that you had was like the Infernal Crown, which was just kind of a nice item for leveling up. It wasn't something that you used at in-game, but it gave it experience bonuses, and so it was a nice leveling item. They're doing the same thing again. Now you have the Infernal Pauldrons. The Infernal Helm actually did make its way onto the PC version as a transmog item for Reaper of Souls if you got the digital deluxe or collector's editions.
Yeah.
They also have they've thrown in some of the other ones. You have the same exclusives that you had in the digital deluxe and collector's editions for Reaper of Souls in the PC. They're included in the base version of the console game. You also, on the PlayStation version, you get a special transmog set modeled after Shadow of the Colossi, or Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah.
It's called Guise of the Colossi. That's where I'm getting screwed up on that one. But the thing that I am the most jealous of is that you will have a special The Last of Us Nephilim Rift on the PlayStation version. So you'll be able to go in there, and it is going to be filled with stalkers and clickers and bloaters, and it's just... It almost makes me want to buy that just so that way I can go in and kill clickers with my fists and not worry about anything, just to relieve all the frustration that I had at going and playing through The Last of Us on Survivor mode and just having nightmares every time you just hear that little clicking noise in the background.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, the clickers in The Last of Us were blind, and you could get around them if you were super sneaky. They're horrible if you've got them. I wonder if they're going to put any of that functionality into Diablo.
Oh, that would suck, because the whole thing with the clickers is they were one enemy you could not melee. They basically, they had been taken over by the spores so much that they were just spongy, and punching them did nothing. If you had a bat, you could beat them, but if they got up on you, you couldn't push them away, and they would kill you in a single hit. So if they actually got into melee range, that was it. You're over. You're dead. And it was unless you had a special upgrade that allowed you to kind of fight them off with your knife. but it was horrendous. It was just absolutely horrendous, and you hated every second of it. Every time that you had to go through, I would fight 10 bloaters before I fought like 3 clickers. I hated it.
Yeah, right. I just remember that one room with like 50 clickers.
Oh,
Like,
the subway.
yeah,
Hmm.
that was interesting. Anyways,
Yeah.
enough of the Last of Us. Were there any other blue posts worth mentioning?
I want to say that that covers pretty much like the really big ones. Because I mean they talked about some of like the other, like just like some bugs. Like there's a bug with Hydra and some
Rate of
other stuff.
Frost.
Yeah, but I mean that was about it. Not, or they discussed like some of the philosophy behind item progression, but I feel that's kind of like a moot point. You should really, most people, especially if you're listening to this podcast, you probably understand that.
Yeah.
I think that pretty much covers the big stuff for this past week.
All right. Well, maybe we can move on to some items of the week.
Let's hit it.
We did not have many items of the week. We have 4 this week, but we'll get through them before we hit our feedback. First one we got from Wildcat Kelly, and this is the first Hellfire Amulet that we've had submitted to the show. For anyone who doesn't know, the Hellfire Amulet is a new reward you can get using the same crafting mats you use to make the Hellfire Ring. And for anyone who doesn't know, you do the Uber bosses for that. Google it if you don't know. There's lots of guides out there. But this one didn't roll particularly well, or well at all. Of course, on an amulet, you want crit chance, crit damage, maybe attack speed. We didn't get any of that on here.
Yeah.
But still nice to see a Hellfire Amulet. Thanks for sending that in, Kelly.
Yeah, I think that is the first time that anyone sent in a picture of the Hellfire Amulet to the show.
Yeah, so now this is the amulet to beat. If you have a better Hellfire Amulet, send it in. Or, on that note, if you have any items or feedback to send in, please do at Westmarch Workshop at blizzpro.com.
Yep. And if you can't remember the email address, feel free to hit us up on Twitter, and we also take feedback from
Yes,
there.
indeed. Well, next one, we've gotten a lot of penetrators sent into the show, and I don't think it's because of their stats. I think it's because our viewers giggle a few times every time they hear the word penetrator.
Because we are 12.
We are all 12.
We are all 12 here.
But this is the Confident Penetrator from Beyond. So go ahead, giggle away. There's nothing else to this item. It's just the Confident Penetrator from Beyond.
Giggity.
Giggity. You can imagine that Hellfire Rift opening to some kind of adult toy.
Yep.
There you go. Next one sent in from Alienationer. This Hell Trapper. It's not bad. It did have some really nice weapon damage on there, over 2,500. Not the best item we had on the show.
It's obviously not the most impressive one-handed crossbow that we've seen, because in our first couple weeks of episodes we had just a literal arms race, and who could provide the screenshot with the highest DPS on a one-handed crossbow. But it's nice. It's a lot of people swear by their Hell Trappers. Because you can sometimes just get a lucky string and drop down like 5 sentries on like one attack, and it becomes beautiful. But it's definitely one of those ones that's some people love. It definitely is useful, for some of the lower difficulties. But once you start getting up into the tier 6 and move on to the Marauders set, most people end up still going for like Manticore or some other high damage two-hander.
Yeah. And then the last item we got sent in was very sexy. Andrea sent in this Countless Julia's cameo with perfect crit chance, and after a few enchants, perfect crit damage with decent int and maximum damage from cold skills, 20%. So congratulations on that, Andreas. That's a very sexy amulet.
Yeah, and it even had physical resistance on the secondary, so a nice little survivability buff on that.
Yeah, arcane damage, probably or arguably at least the best damage to be immune to. So,
It has killed. Arcane damage has been the killer of the majority of my hardware characters. So, yep.
yeah, that's solid proof right there. Arcane damage is the one you want to be immune to. Well, that was all our items of the week. We were pretty short this week, so let that be some motivation. Send in your items. We are desperate for them.
Yeah, it's one of those ones. It's like we'll have that big push. It's like we only got 4 entries. Send us in, and then we'll get 8, and then obviously we can't show them all in the amount of time for the podcast, and then it will dwindle down. So it's like a roller coaster ride. You guys give us a roller coaster ride, and we thank you for it. It's fun. We like it. We enjoy it. But please, go and send us in. Love seeing good and sometimes bad and sometimes 12-year-old items.
Yeah,
Speaking of 12-year-old items, we haven't had anyone submit a D2 item in a while.
That was a very good transition. We're getting this is a skill we're learning as the show goes on, is transitions. But we've been overusing them, which I'm totally okay with. I think we should just transition more times than we change subtopics if possible.
I'm sure we can find a way to do it.
Speaking of finding a way to do it, no, I don't have anything there. I just thought maybe something would come to me. We got an email from Mahai Nugent who gave us an idea for an intro. He said he misses the movie intros, so hopefully the Braveheart intro was satisfying for you. But I won't read this one because maybe we'll use it. But thank you, Nugent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just acknowledging it, but we'll save that one for later.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you want to? We had one from Twitter about us talking about clan features.
Yeah, this one came from Cyberwolf, who participates over in the Shattered Soulstone podcast, and it's just. He wants to hear what our opinions are, or what we would put as a wish list of features for clans in Diablo 3, especially when you compare them to what they offer guilds in World of Warcraft. And I think we probably don't. Both of our opinions probably are not what you were hoping. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit before the show, and although the guild features are great in World of Warcraft, it seems like there's a few differences between that and Diablo. And I guess my biggest opinion is that there are just more reasons to incentivize guilds in World of Warcraft, a game which you're probably not going to have a good time playing on your own, and the community is really the best part of World of Warcraft. It makes sense to add a bunch of amazing features to give you a huge benefit to join a guild, but ultimately they really push you into joining a guild. Especially nowadays, if you're not in a guild in World of Warcraft, you're really missing out. And personally, I just don't think it's the best thing for Diablo to make you feel like you need to be in a clan to be getting the most out of the game.
Yeah, especially when a lot of people play Diablo as just a single-player game. They just play it solo. You look around in one of the most active communities over, say, at Diablo.in Gamers is the single-player forums. That even in Diablo 3, that they just go on and they play the game. It's a single-player game, and that's it for them. They love interacting and talking with other people and their experiences while playing the game, but for them, it's just a one-player game. And that's all they want to do it as. They don't care about clans or anything like that. They just want to go and do their own thing. And you really have to balance that in a game like Diablo, because with a maximum party size of only 4, it is definitely a smaller social experience, and you can't really incentivize being in a clan over having solo play, because there is no big necessary feature like raids or dungeons in World of Warcraft to have to group up with people. It would just be more or less, we'll add in a buff to Magic Find or to gold drops by being in a clan, and now being in a clan is mandatory, and so everyone's just going to join in junk clans for no other reason to get that buff, when it's like, well, why don't you just add that into the base game and benefit everybody? That's kind of my take on it.
No, yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think we all hope that they'll introduce new game modes in the future, maybe some kind of competitive PvE, or cross your fingers, some PvP content. And hopefully they'll integrate clans into that. But as far as it stands right now, with the current stand of the game, I like that they've kept clans really simple.
Hmm.
I think it fits the need for people who wanted clans. It allows you to communicate better and form groups better. But yeah, it's a double-edged sword when you start adding incentives for joining a clan.
Yeah. The one thing that I would like to see them add, as far as like to go back to the other half of the question, is like a wish list of things that I would like to see added to clans. Is I would actually appreciate them like adding in a clan banner or sigil, something that kind of goes through and says, "This is the clan I'm in," and here is our flag, that type of thing. I would like to see that added into the game, and it's something that you could then go through and add in with the seasons and leaderboards and such. Is just you have, if you were in a clan group, that not only does it show the characters, but it'll also like show that banner or sigil for your clan. That this clan, we have the #1 spot in Greater Rift clear times, and here's our banner, here's our line in the sand type thing. Come beat us.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I mean, what if? Sorry, I didn't have many ideas before the show, but you talking about this. What if they had just clan leaderboards where they took the average runtime, maybe the highest, but I think it'd be more exciting if it was the average time of your clan and really had its own leaderboard based on which clan did the best in greater rifts or levels.
Yeah, or even just a best time per clan. That then clans have their own separate leaderboard.
Well, I think they're already introducing that. I think.
Well, you can go through in the game. I know that you can look at it at the best times within your clan, but I don't think that they have like a separate leaderboard for just all
I see what you're
clan
saying.
group. It's like they have a separate leaderboard that shows only groups that were entirely one clan when it was completed.
Yeah. No, yeah, that could be really cool.
Because that's something that they did with World of Warcraft and Mists of Pandaria. They had the challenge mode dungeons, and there was special bonuses that they added in if the entire group was in the same guild, and you got the realm's fastest time, you got a title. And there's only 5 people on the realm at any given point in time could have that title, because it was only awarded to the people with the with the fastest time in each particular dungeon.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like that idea.
Hmm.
Well, unfortunately, I thought I had time to read all the emails before the show, and preparation got the best of me. I'm reading this one cold, but this one comes from Bruno, and he says, "Hey, Archon 9 Ball, want to say congrats on the show. It's awesome. Started watching it late because he didn't like to hear us just talking. He wanted to see the video while he was playing Diablo, which I think most of our viewers like to watch the show while they play. He submitted an item a few weeks ago that we showed on the show, and he wants to know our opinion on sets. He says a barbarian set that every time you cast Earthquake, you automatically cast Avalanche. What's that set called? Maybe someone in chat can throw us out for us because we're both barbarian noobs. But it's like a complement of the Leapquake build. And so for the Crusader, Akin set allows you to have almost perma Akarat's Champion on. The new set would make every time you have Akarat's Champion, you gain 5 Blessed Hammers orbiting you as you move. So this is an idea for a new Crusader set, and for the secondary stats, since it would have the Earth set and the Akron set, Blizzard could make sets that require slots you don't normally use, like Rings, Amulet, and Belt, make a nice competition for the Hellfire Amulet and the Royal Ring. Forgot the name, he says. So thank you for the email, Bruno, and for the nice words. And it seems like a cool idea. Basically, it would be a Crusader set that would allow you to gain 5 Blessed Hammers when using Akarat's Champion. I guess my only concern for the idea is that Blessed Hammers already seems like a pretty popular skill. I don't know if it's the skill you need to be incentivizing, but it does seem like it would introduce a really cool build.
Yeah, and the barbarian set, that was also just another one of his ideas. It's not one that actually existed in the game, It was just
yes.
a set that when you casted Earthquake, it would then also drop Avalanche. And so that way you could get a Leap Quake build and make it even more OP, because then you would leap, you would drop an Earthquake, and then an Avalanche on top of that. And then you might as well, add in like a ring that when you did the leap, it did the Earthquake, drop the Avalanche, and then the Ancients would come out and then destroy anything that was actually still alive after that entire onslaught. So
That sounds like an awesome set. Let's put this in the game.
I would play a Barbarian for that. That's for certain.
No, it's funny. I think this kind of like describes the big difference between the ideas that the devs bring to us and the ideas that players have. Is players' ideas are usually driven by what do I want the most, right? Like, well, I love being a Whirlwind Barb, so it would be so cool if Blizzard made Whirlwind Barbs twice as powerful.
Yeah.
Which makes sense from a player's point of view, but of course the developers, they've put a lot of work into the game, they've developed all these skills, and they want to make sure they're getting used, and there's as much variety as possible in builds, and so their ideas are usually, okay, what skills are very unpopular right now, and let's make those more exciting. Which I think also really does work to the player's benefit, even though it's not always easy to see from the get-go. Yeah. But yeah, some cool ideas there. That does sound like a lot of fun, Bruno.
Definitely. Switching it back up, obviously, it's that time where we do our weekly check-in on Dr. Checkmate and his little hardcore project that I'm thoroughly enjoying. And unfortunately, I have bad news.
Oh, no.
And that bad news is that he is putting the project on hold for a little bit. He still fully intends to go through with it. But he is just going to wait until seasons come out with patch 2.1, mainly because he wants to start off truly fresh. He wants to his next character. He just wants to start from scratch, have none of the bonuses or perks or anything like that. Just like when he started the first time with the Demon Hunter. He's not completely married to the idea of the Crusader, but it's probably what he's going to go with. I guess that depends a lot on the until the patch itself comes out with what changes they make. Maybe they give some, maybe they make monks too powerful or such. But I think Crusader is still a good choice because you have a wide range of damage as well as survivability. You have a lot of varieties that you can do on your way to 70, and you just have a very solid skill set for hardcore.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Checkmate, I can say that I definitely sympathize for you in waiting for seasons to come out. It does feel like we're going to be starting from scratch then anyways, and so yeah, a lot of motivation to take a break, I think. It does. I think as we get closer and closer to seasons, it feels a little bit futile to be working on our characters at this point. Well, we got a message from G. Danny. Likes to write in a lot. And again, reading this cold, but he's using Zombie Charger Pylon, Piranhas with Paranado, Big Bad Voodoo Daddy, Fetish Army, Zombie Dogs, Wall of Zombies. And he says that it's doing great for survivability, keeping his fetishes up, and he uses Pylon because Sacrifice is just not good enough. He can't wait for the next patch. Anyways, his question is, what does he think? What do we think Charms will? Sorry, do we think Charms will make a comeback in the future? There's a theory that keeps his interest, that makes many of Diablo. Sorry, and make many of Diablo. So there is a plan. I'm trying to read through this, but it's a few grammatical errors. Anyways.
Yeah, for G. Danny, English obviously isn't his first language, so it takes a little bit of translating as you go through it.
Yes, yeah, I mean, great email, being his second language. But he wants to know what our opinion of Charms are. And just perusing this email really quickly, I would just want to say Charms have been brought up a lot by players in the last few years. And, of course, anything that was in D2 that isn't in D3 is going to be missed for nostalgic reasons. I loved it in D2. Why can't I also love it in D3? But Charms, I think the really basic issue with Charms is that there's not a good reason not to use them. For anyone who isn't familiar with charms, they take up inventory space, but give you similar bonuses that you would get from gear. And really, if you're trying to play optimally, you end up filling at least half your inventory with charms.
If not more so.
Yeah. And it feels great when you get improvements to your character, but you're making this trade-off that just isn't that fun. It's like, do you want to be more powerful, or do you want to be able to pick up items without having to travel back to town every 10 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
And I just, although I've heard a lot of ideas that are similar to charms that are great, I don't think charms are the best way to add more build variety.
Do you remember the talisman?
No, talisman.
In the first publicly available previews of Diablo 3 at some of the early BlizzCons, charms were in the game, and it was a mechanic called the talisman, and it was they removed charms from the inventory, and they basically had their own separate inventory called the talisman.
I do remember that. Yeah, there are like 3 slots to the side of the regular gear.
Yeah. Yeah, and so you just had a couple of slots that you could put charms into, and obviously you could still collect charms in your inventory, but they didn't give you any bonuses. And at the time it was low levels, but it was just small little things like you'd have a charm and it gave, like +1 dexterity, or +10 armor, something along those lines. Really small basic stuff, and then you would get like a rare charm, and it would give +1 dexterity, +1 vitality, and +1 strength. It gave a variety of different buffs. And so they're just little tiny things, and gave you another way that you could stat your character out. There's another little vein of progression that you could do for your character. But eventually it was scrapped before the launch of D3 Classic. And the reason that they gave for why they removed it from the game was they felt that it overlapped with the gem system. That there just wasn't anything, unique about it. That it was just you get gems, you put them in sockets, and it gives you a bonus to a stat. You go through, you pick up charms, you put them in your talisman, and it gives you an increase to a stat. It's the same thing. It's just we're doing it a different way. It's a different flavor, but it ends up at the same point. And so they felt that they could do more with it, and they scratched it. It was something that I legitimately was expecting for them to bring back in Reaper of Souls, but they didn't. Maybe it's something that they will add in at a later point in time, and because there's a lot of things that you can do with charms that don't rely on just increasing a base stat. You can do things with, I guess the Paragon system is a really great idea of things that they could have done, like with charms, with the movement speed or the resource cost reduction and such. But I guess it's still something that they might do something with in the future. Charms obviously is another great way of expanding upon the item game. It's another type of item that you would like to go through and collect and put into an inventory system, and it's another way of progressing your character, which obviously is another great thing, but they have to find a way of making it unique and worthwhile.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've heard a few good ideas on charms, but I think keep them out of your inventory is probably for the best.
Yeah, as long as it has, some other benefit. I guess even if they brought back, old school runes or jewels and use that, in the talisman, not for rune words, but some of the effects, where they aren't as useful, or they can't translate over, but you had some runes that were incredibly powerful that you used because it was, ignores enemy defense, or was minus 25% enemy defense. And they're just really nice things for increasing your DPS without increasing anything on your stat page.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to see something that's similar to what you were talking about, I think, last week, where you could choose the elemental type of each skill. I mean, of course, it would take a total rework, but maybe you could take the same slot as your talisman, where you'd have like 6 slots, one for each skill, and could really define the elemental type, and then the runes on each skill would be, would actually affect the spell and not necessarily the elemental type.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's something else that could be done in the same type of system.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the emails we got this week were probably warranted just a response from us and not necessarily us reading them because they're more specific tips on the show itself. Were there other emails that you wanted to go through?
I think that pretty much covers the majority of them. I do have to give props out to Mad Hamster. He's the one that brought it to our attention that there was a problem with the episode 17 up on iTunes and Stitcher. Which again, if you're affected by that, I'm sorry, and I will get the episode re-uploaded tonight. It's kind of strange in that if you've already downloaded it, you're out of luck. If you hadn't downloaded it yet, and you're still you're like you're listening to episode 18 a week from now, and you're like, what are you talking about? It was an hour and a half long. You guys droned on for inane amounts of time. It obviously didn't affect you, but for those that were, it's the change will be coming, or it already happened. And Reb's in chat.
Yeah, Reb's always showing up at the last moment. We'll deal with you in after hours, Reb.
Ooh.
What? Ooh. Wait, no.
We might have to go back into the item pile on that one.
We have a penetrator just for you.
Penetrator from beyond.
If you guys don't know about After Hours, you probably don't watch the show live, but we hope you do. Twitch.tv/ArchonTheWizard. And on that note, is there anything else we wanted to discuss before starting the outro?
I think that that does pretty much cover up the majority of it. I guess the only other thing that I would want to add is I probably should have said this at the beginning in my weekend gaming, but when I was playing Heroes of the Storm, I actually came across a fan.
Oh.
Yeah, it was just I just loaded up into a game, was just trying to get some dailies done, and there's just like, are you Nineball from Westmarch Workshop? And I'm like, yes, actually I am, and you're about to see me be bad at this game, so go comment about it on YouTube, And we lost horribly in that match too. It was like one of those ones. I want to say that I'm at least somewhat decent at it, but I always like to be, humble and not brag. And then that one, oh man, we got steamrolled. It was like a pre-made group that we went up against, and it's like that's one thing that I can't wait for Heroes of the Storm for them to add in MMR, because I mean it was like, why did I even play that game? We got rolled.
That's pretty funny. Well, yeah, we really appreciate you guys watching, especially the people that come in and watch live. You guys are super awesome. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and start our outro. Keep in mind, if you do want to watch us live, we start the stream late, but we try to start it at 6 p.m. Pacific or 9 p.m. Eastern every Wednesday on twitch.tv/ArchonTheWizard. We hope you'll send in your feedback or items of the week to Westmarch Workshop at blizzpro.com. And we're on Twitter at ArchonTheWizard and at 9ballgamer, spelled N-E-I-N ball. I wonder how many people have sent it into just the number 9ball gamer.
I don't know. Because there also is there is a just a 9ball on Twitter, which I was surprised. It's like the first time that I ever came across it where someone was already using 9ball. And they're just some person that does like one tweet a year. Is like, I don't even know who they are, what they're doing. They're not even German. Because all the tweets are in English. Yeah, it's like, I don't know.
Well, yeah, if you want to tweet 9ball, it's German for no ball gamer.
No ball gamer. That's me.
That's something completely different reference. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next week.